to try to do a quick live stream, taking a little bit of a siesta break over here. As always with these live streams, still getting my live situation set up. I know it's not the highest resolution. Hopefully I'll have some breakthrough with that sometime and hopefully get these a little bit more scheduled. But for today, we're going to be looking at independent comic books, indie books. And to clarify right up from the top, I'm going to say independent is anything not coming from the big two, Marvel Comics or DC Comics. I know Image, a lot of people are like, that's really not an independent anymore. It's so gigantic. I just think of it as the largest independent comic book publisher. So anyway, we have some Image books here. I have stuff from, I believe, Dynamite. Something from whatever Lemire did over here. But I do have a handful of Image, and I just wanted to talk about great indie comic titles, especially for new readers. I think for me, this is such a broad topic. It's hard to even know where to jump in, especially everyone's taste differs. And unlike the superhero genre, there's so much more diversity in storytelling in independent comics, I feel, in general. So it's hard to get something for everyone. I know there's some big, notable omissions in this selection. These are just some of my favorites I enjoy. I will say one of the reasons I'm a little bit more choosy with independent comic books is I find that there's a lot that are geared more towards mature audiences, which is wonderful, but I do try to shy away from sexual content and nudity in my books. I also don't go super hard horror, and I find a lot of those elements in a lot of independent books. So I am a little bit choosy with that. With that in mind, here are some of my favorite indie comic titles, and I think they're totally accessible to new readers. I feel like in general too, independent books are a bit more accessible for new readers because most of the time there's not like decades long continuity. It's really like you can start a new series and jump right in. It's not like you're the newest writer on Batman. There are a couple caveats, obviously. Invincible ran for a long time. You have stuff like Spawn, which I don't have here, that's gone on forever. So there are, some exclusions to that rule, but in general, I do find that indie books are a bit more accessible. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and start jumping in. I know this is kind of an odd lunch-ish hour for some people in my time zone, and who knows where everyone else is coming in from. But as people make their way in, if you're enjoying the content, please hit that like icon. It would be great. Oops, my double joint. Sorry about that. It would be great to get those thumbs up if we can. I'll also be on for maybe 20 minutes or so. So in the chat, if you have any questions for me, go ahead and shoot those out. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can throughout the video. So while we're waiting for more people to kind of trickle in here, hopefully, I will go ahead and start talking. In no particular order, we'll take a look at Birthright. This is an independent comic series from Image Comics by Joshua Williamson. This was one of my introductions to this writer, along with things like his run on Flash. He's done some Batman books I've really liked, and I most recently read Superman Supercorps, which was his first volume in the kind of dawn of DC era. Anyway, Williamson is really becoming a writer I'm enjoying quite a bit, and so to read a fantasy-based indie series from him, well, frankly, this has been a lot of fun so far. So this is a completed, self-contained series across, I think, 10 of these paperbacks, if I'm not mistaken. I'm still making my way through this series, admittedly. I think we are finally getting some kind of deluxe edition or compendium or hardcover or something in the next year. I thought I saw something solicited. But for those that don't know, like I said, this is a kind of high fantasy series, contemporary fantasy, and it's basically about this family with two young boys, the youngest of which has a birthday, and while playing catch at the forest edge with his dad, he disappears, only to return maybe a year later, but as a grown man in the body of just this wild warrior. He says he's been in this other realm for most of his life and kind of fighting, and there's now these fantastical elements that are invading our world, the Earth. There's a lot more going on than just that, but I won't spoil that here. The art is just fantastic here. I'm not as familiar with this artist. This is my first exposure. The artist is Andre Bresson, but just beautiful stuff. I mean, the character models are great. The action sequences this are fantastic. Fantasy fans out there, definitely check out Birthright. Like I said, I'm still making my way through, so we'll see how I feel once I complete the series. But I'm in volume 2 right now and just really loving this, really liking that series. And like I said, for fans of Joshua Williamson from the Big Two, check out his indie stuff. It's pretty fun. Before we go into the next book though, let's go ahead. It looks like we've got some comments. Hi everyone. Richard, hello, Dominic. Hope you're well. Thanks. I am well. Just taking a little bit of a break from my other responsibilities to do a quick live stream. Hi, NRG. Hello. Sanad. Hi. Longboy Comics. Hello, and happy summer solstice. Yeah, this first day of summer over here in the U.S. Happy summer, everyone. What could I get if I subscribed? I guess a thank you. I haven't read it myself, but have you ever checked out Seven to Eternity? It's so funny you bring that up. I was just talking to a commenter about that this week. That is a Rick Remender title. I've been really hoping to get it, actually. I do not have a copy, nor have I read it, but it's on my short list of something to check out. So stay tuned for that if I end up picking up a copy. Richard, I recently ordered Firepower. Yeah, this is a great hardcover. I'll talk about that in a moment. I know Volume 2 is coming out in like a month or two, and that finishes the back half of this series. Can't wait to talk about Firepower. Love that. I hope you enjoyed the hardcover. Next series I'm going to talk about here is Undiscovered Country from Scott Snyder and Charles Soule, brought to us by way of Image Comics. This is a really fun series. This is actually currently an ongoing title, so if you want to jump into this series, you can still get new issues as they come out. I have read and reviewed the first 4 volumes of the trade paperbacks. That's all they've released thus far. It's kind of a dystopian present or near future where basically a virus has ravaged most of the world and the rest of the world has been basically factionized into 2 or 3 main factions. And all the while, the last 100 years or something like that, or not 100 years, maybe 30, 40 years, the United States has been walled off from the rest of the world. No communication in or out, and it's completely walled until this eclectic group of 20, 30 somethings for the most part, get invited into the walls of the US, only to find kind of a dystopian wasteland. And there's a lot more going on. It's kind of a thriller, mystery, like I said, dystopian future. But really wonderful stuff here. I love Scott Snyder, and I'm becoming more of a Charles Soule fan the older I get. I've enjoyed some of his Star Wars comic stuff. I actually just reviewed Snyder and Soule with their run on New 52 Swamp Thing not too long ago. If you want to see a review of that, you can find it on my channel. But yeah, Undiscovered Country, this is a book that, as long as they keep making these paperbacks, I'm probably going to keep reviewing these. Really love that series. Okay. If you haven't read Something is Killing the Children by Tynion, definitely recommend it. Yeah, I read the first 4 paperbacks of that and some of House of Slaughter, a very good series as well. Okay, what else do we got? And yeah, keep the comments coming if you'd like, everyone. And please don't forget to hit that like little symbol if you're enjoying the content. It definitely helps me out in the algorithm, things like that. This is another one I thought I'd showcase for today, primarily because they just came out with a deluxe oversized hardcover for Geiger that collects this and some extras. This is a superhero series from Image. Jeff Johns started his own kind of imprint over at Image, and he's doing this sort of superhero universe called The Unnamed. They've had a couple so far, Geiger, Junkyard Joe, and I think the Redcoat as part of this universe. I've reviewed the paperback for Geiger and Junkyard Joe so far. This is kind of a near-future, nuclear-based superhero that's also in kind of a wasteland aspect. We have art from the incredible Gary Frank. Jeff Johns and Gary Frank are definitely not new to collaboration, although this is some of the strongest stuff I've read. I love it. Really good stuff. I've seen good things about the hardcover as well, for those that maybe only like more prestige formats. I did like this paperback. We'll see if I'm able to upgrade at some point. For me, though, this is just so cool. I know I'm a huge fan of Jeff Johns. I've loved all the stuff he does at DC, and I have for well over a decade now. But getting to read some of his indie stuff, it's just really great. Highly recommend Geiger. Keep moving here. Let's see. Thoroughly enjoyed Geiger. Awesome. I'm glad to hear someone else really liked it. It seems to be doing pretty well. Tempted to upgrade. You know, I am too. I'm holding on to the paperback until I make kind of my decision there. But that hardcover just looks so good. It is very, very tempting. Gary Frank art deserves the upgrade. Yeah, that's a really good point. I really do think so. Have you read Junkyard Joe? I have. I read Junkyard Joe. I was actually given an opportunity to read the first 3 issues of that before issue 2 and 3 were even released, which was cool. I got to do kind of an early first look at that series for Image at the time. You can find that on the video or on my channel if you'd like. And then I reviewed the trade paperback when that came out. I actually really liked it. Not quite as much as Geiger, but still really enjoyed Junkyard Joe. And I hope to get the Redcoat when that comes out on paperback. We will move along though. Another Image superhero comics series here. This is Radiant Black by Kyle Higgins. This has really been called kind of a cross between Power Rangers and just a straight up like superhero narrative. And I see that. I get what they're talking about. This is a sci-fi based superhero, kind of college graduate down on his luck, had a crossroads in his life, encounters this weird celestial object that imbues him with a powerful suit and some abilities and communication with some kind of alien entity. And he is called Radiant Black. Him and his friends try to figure all that out. He tries to fight crime. There's other Radiants going on, and there's a lot of twists and turns in this one that I'm not going to spoil, but this is a fantastic, fantastic series. I heard some people say this is going to be the successor to something like Invincible, you know, an indie, long-standing superhero comic. I think let's see what happens. You know, this has been going for a couple years now. I don't know if it's going to hit the heights of Invincible, but fingers crossed. I am enjoying it so far. I've read the first couple volumes of this one as well. Love the art too. It just looks so polished and cool. I like the lighting effects. It just really, really just jumps off the page. I think this is getting some kind of deluxe edition too later this year, if I'm not mistaken. So for the people that only want hardcover, that's something for all of you. Great, we got some more comments here, so let's go ahead and do that before we keep going with the list today. Hey, Kane, I see you in the comments. Plan to get the Invincible Compendium hardcover. I've heard good things about that. I know that's a 3-volume set collecting the whole series. I hope you enjoy it. Recently saw Omar at Near Mint do an overview of Little Monsters. Yeah, that does look interesting. I saw that video dropped. I love Omar's channel. He was easily one of my main reasons for starting my own, and he seems just like the coolest guy. So do want to watch that video. I haven't watched it this week. It's been a little busy, but I do look forward to looking at that. I think Little Monsters is a Jeff Lemire series, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong on that, so don't quote me. But I have been looking at that. Is someone getting a case of indie fever? You know, Dustin, after your huge list and comments recommending all these great indies, I have had it on the brain in the last couple days. I won't lie to you. Wowzers, able to catch you live. What is up, man? Good to see you. Let's see, Energon Universe. I've heard really good things about that. I'm not a huge Transformers guy. I know that that might get me booed in this fandom sphere. I know there's a huge Transformers fan group and the Transformer comics. I just have yet to really dive into that universe, but I have heard good things. There's a lot of great creators on the Energon universe, so I am pretty curious. Love the indie comic scene. Yes, I'm just kind of a dabbler in indie books. I mentioned it at the top of the video, but I try to avoid like heavier, more explicit comic books. I find I see that more in indie, so I'm a bit more choosy. But there are so many great indie books I just love, and I'm really enjoying getting more recommendations and checking out more and more stuff. Just want to throw out recommendation for Gideon Falls, Something is Killing the Children, Killer Be Killed, Harrow County, Descender, Ascender. Yeah, Descender I've read a good chunk of, really like that, by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. I've wanted to check out Gideon Falls. That's another one that's been on my list. I think that's another Jeff Lemire. And is it Sorrento on art for that one? I don't know. That one looks like a pretty cool series as well. Wait a minute, Dominic, there must be some mistake. Where's Ed Brubaker on this list? Yeah, you know, I don't have a ton of Ed Brubaker yet in indie. I've read some of Criminal in the past. I don't have any copies of that anymore, though. But yeah, Brubaker and Sean Phillips are just an incredible indie team. Again, I try to avoid nudity in comics, so I had to offload a little bit of that, but always down for a great Brubaker recommendation. I know he's a prolific comic creator, especially in the indie scene. I actually am just finishing out a reread of the second half of his Daredevil run over at Marvel. Absolutely brilliant. Always good to expand outside the big two. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think that there's a whole batch of people that only know comics based on superheroes, and there's definitely always room for more independent. Okay, let me go ahead and start jumping into the next one, and then we'll do some more comments. So I'm not ignoring you. Please keep leaving those comments. We'll get there. And if you're liking it, like I said, give a thumbs up. But The Underwater Welder by Jeff Lemire. You've already heard me mention Lemire a few times in this video. He's one of my favorite comic book writers, and I've just recently started to get more into his indie stuff, and I'm loving it. He just does such human tales, and we have his artwork as well, the kind of like scratchy looking character models. There's just so much substance to these character models, and I like it. There's almost kind of a, I don't really want to say the word grotesque, but there is something gritty and not overly polished about his artwork, but it really helps me connect with his worlds, his characters, and it just evokes such a specific tone. I really like it. Underwater Welder is kind of a reflection on fatherhood. There's a kind of Twilight Zone sci-fi feel to this book. It is a standalone graphic novel. Highly recommend it. It's all in black and white. I did review this on the channel. Loved it. This was easily one of my top reads this year. Had it recommended to me for such a long time. So happy I finally was able to dive in. Okay. And that is all the paperbacks. Yay, I wanted to get those done first because they were tipping over when I was prepping for the video. Let's go ahead and do one more and then we'll jump back into the comments. But please keep them coming, and thank you again for showing up. Let's look at Ian Fleming's James Bond, The Complete Warren Ellis Omnibus. They called it Omnibus. This is from Dynamite Comics. Really a beautiful book. It is standard size, as you can see here, so not oversized. But a beautiful book, and it collects his Warren Ellis's entire run on Bond, including Varger and Dolan. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but basically his first two huge arcs here. We even have a ribbon. This is a really beautifully made book. Don't know if the resolution will catch it, but there's even on the end pages like 007, 007. It just looks really cool. Got a little golden. It's just really well made. I really think that they did a lot of time in this book. It's beautiful glossy print paper stock. Like I said, this is Dynamite Comics. I'm a huge fan of the James Bond franchise. Read all the Ian Fleming books, seen all the movies, all the main movies. So anyway, I was looking to break into the comics. I've heard that they've had a lot of great comic series. But Warren Ellis is a comic book writer I've enjoyed in the past. And this collection really didn't disappoint. I will say it's much more like kind of modern Bond. This isn't like 1960s Bond. So that is a factor in this book. And there is also a touch of just like gore and violence. So I will say if you're a little bit squeamish with that or you prefer comics without it, just kind of violence warning in here. But this was really fun. I got this for Christmas, I think this last year. Really a fun read. I did review that on the channel. But that's definitely one I'd recommend to new readers, especially if you're just getting into comics. Maybe you're already a fan of James Bond and you're like, wow, they have comics for it. Absolutely. And I think you could do worse than Warren Ellis's stuff here. Okay, let's spend a moment going back to the comments and then we'll hit these last couple books. Oh, awesome. We got some great comments here. Ooh, wow, yep. Okay. I'm actually interested in reading Grimm from Boom Studios. Yeah, I think I saw Omar do a video of that on Near Mint Condition this week. That was something I saw in paperback a lot. I think it just came out with the deluxe edition. That looks like a fun series. I don't know much about it outside that video, unfortunately, but hopefully it's good. Hear great things about Berserk. Yeah, I started reading that a little bit. It's kind of an action mystery thriller series from Keanu Reeves and Boom. Pretty cool stuff there. I didn't finish it. It got a little explicit for me, but thought it was still all right. Sentient is another brilliant Lemire. That's funny. That's actually a book I've been thinking about picking up as well. Making my first comment. It's 20-page one-shot. Very cool. Okay. Berserk was fun. Cool. We got some recommendations for Berserk. Brubaker's work doesn't get better than Velvet. Yeah, you know, that's one you just recommended to me, I think yesterday, 2 days ago, Dustin. Definitely looking into that. I am interested. A lot of people shouting out Killer Be Killed is a really good one. Lazarus from Rucka. Yep, that's another one that's really high on my to check out list. I like Greg Rucka a lot, so that's the series that I've been hovering. I just love how with indie, you have a definitive beginning, middle, and end, and no worries about continuity. Honestly, for me, that's such a huge selling point for independent comics. That's easily one of the things that sets it apart for me. You get complete stories, and it's so accessible to new readers. So when I even made this video, you know, great indie books for new readers, it almost feels redundant because really any indie book is good for new readers. But here we are. I think that's a really good point. Yeah, Lemire, Black Hammer. I read the main Black Hammer series. Really enjoyed that. Absolutely a good book. I read it digitally though on, I think, Comixology, so I don't have physical copies of Black Hammer, but would love to own some someday. Currently reading that first Brubaker Omni. Yep, good stuff. Captain America. Yeah, that's a great run. The Brubaker Captain America stuff, you can see it up here. Absolutely incredible. I second the recommendation for Velvet. Awesome, good. Getting some consistency for these recommendations here. I appreciate that. Oh, I love seeing commenters who recommend books to other commenters. There's these whole side conversations in here. I love it. Just went to the library and got Met Cadet, White Knight, Harley Quinn. Ooh, I really liked that. I read and reviewed that on the channel not too long ago. Does Preacher count as indie? Yeah, sure. Why not? We'll call it indie. I think it is Preacher Vertigo? I don't know. Anyway, close enough. Last indie I read was Maze Book. Yeah, that was another one I really wanted to read. Mitch over at Omnibuddy did a really great review on Maze Book. Has me really thinking it's one I want to check out. Black Science is Fun from Remender. Yeah, I've heard really good things about that as well. Your review of Underwater Welder was great. Awesome. Thank you, Carson. Appreciate you shouting that out and checking it out. Firepower was a great one. Looking forward to Volume 2. Yeah, me too. Okay, let's go ahead. I think I'm pretty much caught up on the comments, but keep them coming. We probably got, let's look at the time, maybe another 10 minutes on this live. So please, if you want, keep giving me those likes. Please give me those comments, and I'll keep addressing them. But let's keep moving forward. If you've been around the channel for a while, you've probably seen me talk about this one. This is Morning Glories by Nick Spencer and Joe Yzma. Image comic book. This one is currently on a kind of indefinite hiatus. They wrote, I think, 50 or so issues of this series. This oversized deluxe edition, I think, has the first 12 or 13, if I'm remembering correctly over here. Anyway, it is a book about a precocious group of teenagers who get taken into this boarding school that is super full of mystery and sketchy. There's a lot of like sci-fi kind of paranormal happenings here. It's one of those series, kind of like the television series Lost, that has more questions than answers. There's a lot of intrigue and what is even going on here. It's extremely character-centric as well, so you got a really fun group of characters that are easy to connect to as you try to figure out what the heck is going on. I really love this series. I hope it comes back from hiatus. I think a lot of people ignore this series because it was never properly finished. But honestly, there's still some great stuff in this run. Image did release 3 of these deluxe editions, which are just a beautiful format as well. So I try to talk about Morning Glories whenever I can. I do like Nick Spencer, and hopefully one day, all this content, people talking about Morning Glories, he will return. We will see. Another book I talked about on the channel, I think kind of briefly in one of my list videos, but 8 Billion Genies by Charles Soule and Ryan Brown. This is a book that had so much hype when it was coming out in single issues, and as a collected edition collector, that's something I really try to keep my ear to the ground for. When I hear so much buzz about a book, I'll say, okay, in 6 to 9 months, let me go and check to see if there's a collected edition released. And with 8 Billion Genies, I just felt like there was such a roar for this book. Every time an issue came out, I know it had a bunch of great variant cover art, like kind of variants. But anyway, when the collected edition did come out in this beautiful oversized hardcover edition, I kind of knew it was a matter of time. This is in a world where everyone gets a genie with one wish at the same time, and you get to experience all the chaos that ensues from there. Ryan Brown's artwork is super beautiful. There's kind of an animated quality to it. I haven't really seen a lot of artists like this. It's such a distinctive style. The characters are all uniquely modeled, and I think the premise really drives this series in a way that I can't believe how effective it is. I think these two did a spectacular job, and I certainly understand the hype. For all intents and purposes, this is a one-and-done series as well, so if you're looking for a great thought experiment given form, really check out 8 Billion Genies. Really, really fun, and honestly, it lived up to the hype for me, which was a huge win. I was super excited about that. Okay, let's look. Let's do one more, and then I'll get back to some more comments, but please keep them coming. Keep hitting that like icon. And while I get this one ready, I should say we do have a channel sponsor, organicpricebooks.com. There should be a link for it in this video's description later on. If you want to get any of these books, you can always check the website to see if they have any in print. If you go there at checkout, you can use my discount code, TheComicBookReport, to save $2. If you use my affiliate code, though, I do get commissions off any purchases. But anyway, worth considering. Save you a couple bucks, and it's a great company. Really love how they do careful packaging of everything. But going back into the video here, we have Skyward by, I think it's Joe Henderson and Joe Garbett? No, Lee Garbett, Joe Henderson, yeah. So this I first heard about from BJ Kicks of Comics Are Dope. If you're not following that channel, please do. I'm sure I have a lot of his overflow. His community and even who he is, BJ, really great part of this YouTube comic book space. Anyway, I saw him do a review on this book maybe a year ago now. I don't know, but it looked really cool, and I had a chance to read a few issues digitally, and I really liked the idea of it. And I was finally able to get a copy a few months ago, and I read it. This was another self-contained comic series in a beautiful oversized hardcover from Image. These don't have really any dust jackets or anything, but they look super great on a shelf. Absolutely love it. This is another one like 8 Billion Genies that is really driven from a premise more than anything. It feels like a thought experiment. And I would say the pitch for this in one sentence is, what if gravity in the world just all of a sudden got messed up so it's low gravity? What happens to that world? What happens to that world a decade after that event? Well, that's Skyward. Really, really fun, kind of science fiction, coming of age sort of series. The characters are all really likable, and it's a fun ride. You know, it's a pretty quick series as well. You can see it's not overly thick. I think it's like 17 issues, give or take. Like I said, it's been a couple months since I've read it, but really a great book here. Beautiful glossy print paper stock. Definitely recommend that book. And look how good they look. These image hardcovers are just stunning. Love it. Okay, let's go ahead and switch back to the comments for a bit before we round out the last couple books. Okay. I read Morrison's first Batman Omni the other day, never been more confused, excited for more. Honestly, I love that Morrison era Batman. I still have to get the Omnis. I have that whole run in paperback and standard hardcovers, but someday I'll get those 3 Omnis if I can. Hopefully they continue to stay in print. It's a great run, and honestly, while it is confusing, the way Morrison weaves in just the entire legacy of Batman is a masterstroke, and I just think Morrison handled it so well. A really fantastic run. Definitely keep with it. I'm planning on diving into American Vampire by Scott Snyder. You know, I read the first volume primarily because, yes, I like Scott Snyder, but he wrote the first volume with Stephen King, who I also really like. Hope you enjoy it. Yeah, I've dabbled in that series. Illuminati Dom is live. Wow. What is up, dude? Tyler from Illuminati here in the chat. I know he just had a big move, so he's just starting more long-form content again. If you haven't checked out Illuminati, that is a must watch channel. Tyler's awesome. Friend of the channel, just become a friend over the last year or so, but really recommend his stuff. And he's jumping right back into more YouTube, so great time to subscribe to that channel. Who has been your favorite indie writer? If you count Jeff Lemire might be a favorite. If you count Ed Brubaker, he might be a favorite. Let's see. Oh, and obviously Robert Kirkman. I'm a huge Robert Kirkman fan. Dominic, do you have a favorite indie title that you read for the first time this year? I mentioned it earlier, but honestly, my favorite indie of this year so far is probably 8 Billion Genies or Underwater Welder by Lemire. Those two really just struck me. I know that they didn't really come out this year, but I read them this year. So if that counts, I think those two will really stand out so far. But the year's not over. So hopefully, you know, I have a couple people recommending Velvet. If I check that out, maybe that'll be my favorite. We'll have to see. What do you think of Kevin Smith's Guardian Devil? I adored it so much. I'm a huge fan of the films, or his films. Yeah, you know, I enjoy Kevin Smith as well. I have read his Daredevil run, Guardian Devil. I really like it. Honestly, that was my starting point of reading Daredevil. After I read some of the early Silver Age stuff, and I think some of the Frank Miller stuff, I started with Kevin Smith's and have read basically to current, and I've liked almost everything for that stretch, with a couple caveats. But no, I think Guardian Devil is really underrated. I think more people need to talk about it. It's a fantastic book. Oh wow, this is actually live, talking nonstop. I thought this was a premiere. No, William, I am live. That's why you can hear me a little bit out of breath. I just keep going and shuffling books here. But yeah, while I'm live, if you have any questions, you know, thank you for stopping by. Have you read Little Monsters? No, we talked about that a little bit earlier. I am curious with that book. I know the deluxe edition got released. It looks pretty solid. Finn, hi, I'm new to the channel, first stream, hope you're having a great day. Hey Finn, welcome to the channel, thanks. I'm newer with live stream, it's really just based on availability, but thank you for stopping by. I have a good, 590 videos, so feel free to peruse the channel. I was actually just informed that this is my 3rd channel birthday, so happy birthday to the Comic Book Report. Thank you for all of you for watching. Let's see, what else we got? Thank you, Dom. You got it, Tyler. Again, check out Illuminati if you haven't yet. His channel is awesome. Great channel, even greater guy. Definitely check out his stuff. Great collection. Okay, cool. We're caught up on comments. Have about 2 more books to go, and then we'll start winding down this live stream. So any last comments too, get those ready, and I'll try to address it in a minute. A couple people have already been talking about this. I know a couple people have this collection. This is Firepower by Robert Kirkman and Chris Samney. This is a hardcover, volume 1 of 2. The second volume will round out the rest of the series. Comes out in, I think, a month, so get your pre-orders in at Organic Price Books. But really looking forward to this book. I'm hoping to get the second one, but this was a blast. It starts with a whole like prelude graphic novel. I don't know if you can see this. The end pages are this like gorgeous, like kind of fiery smoke design. I was hooked right from moment one. I've seen Chris Samnee's art in the pages of, I think, Mark Waid's Daredevil. Anyway, a wonderful artist, and Robert Kirkman, of course, from Invincible, Walking Dead, things like that. This is just a dream team. This is sort of a chosen one, martial arts, kind of supernatural narrative. It's in that genre, but really amazing. And if you like the art, this is just a visual treat the whole way through. So like I said, we start with a prelude graphic novel that introduces us to the world and kind of builds the mythos of this particular series, introduces us to a couple key characters. And without spoiling it too much, after that graphic novel, we dive into the main series, which takes place quite a few years later. There's been some developments in the main characters' lives, but it's a blast. Honestly, there's a couple twists and turns in this one, but it's just a really great character-driven martial arts-based comic book series. And what is really cool is it is done in 2 volumes. So if you want to read like a pretty good run without investing too much, you can get 2 of these hardcovers and read the entire thing. And I will say my complete excitement at this series is based just on this first hardcover. So hopefully it sticks the landing, but I think people that have finished it have mentioned that the whole run is still pretty good. So really excited about that. Okay. Last but not least, and then I'll go ahead and answer some more questions, we have Invincible, the Ultimate Collection, Volume 1. I know one commenter said they're getting the hardcover compendium editions. I know there's 3 of those. They had 3 softcover compendiums. They've had paperbacks. So many formats for Invincible. This is my favorite, though. It's an oversized hardcover, Volume 1 of 12. I am thankful enough to have all 12 volumes, and I finished this series, I believe, last year. Anyway, I've been trying to read this series for a few years, gone in and out, but I finally read it cover to cover sometime, I think, last year. Wonderful series, obviously has a lot of popularity, and the popularity is just swelling with the animated adaptation on Amazon we've had the last couple years. But it all starts here. This is a straight-laced superhero narrative for an indie publisher. Went well over 100 issues, so it's a pretty big chunk for an indie series. But it's wonderful, and it starts with basically the main character, Mark Grayson, is the son of the world's most prolific superhero, who is kind of a Superman analog known as Omni-Man. And lo and behold, in the first issue, the main character, Mark, gets his own superpowers, and his dad fills him in more about his background and mythos. And we have Mark kind of experiencing his powers, meeting up with other superheroes, fighting villains. But what really makes Invincible incredible to me is just the characterization. Similarly to The Walking Dead for me, it's a character-driven narrative first that has a veneer of superheroics in the same way that Walking Dead has the kind of overlayer of zombies. But it's really about the characters, the drama, and I think just how much nuance they go into by the end of this series. It really just is a just amazing feat at what Kirkman was able to do. A really, really great series here. Can't recommend it enough. It's easily one of my favorite indie comic series of all time. Okay, and here's a handful of great independent books for new readers. Obviously, I didn't hit everything, and I love that so many of you commenters have been chiming in with some of your favorites, like a lot of those Ed Brubaker titles, a lot of those Rick Remender books, a couple more tiny-ins. But yeah, here's a couple of my favorites. I'm going to go ahead and transition to the comments now. So get in those last comments, and then we'll probably call it for today. And if you haven't yet, please don't forget to hit the like icon. That helps me out with the algorithm. Let's check this out. Okay, great collection. Thank you so much. Richard, if they adapted Firepower, would you prefer animated or live action? Oh man, as long as they adapt it well, I'd be really happy with either. I think with an animation, I'm like, will anyone do Samnee justice? And if not, I'm gonna say maybe live action, question mark? Okay, happy birthday to the channel. Where do you rank Brian K. Vaughan for indie writers? Oh, he's extremely prolific. I've read a little bit of Saga, but had to get off that a little bit because it got a bit graphic for me. Similarly with Why the Last Man, although I read maybe more of that series. Anyway, he's obviously talented. There's a reason he's very highly regarded. I would probably put him near the top. Happy birthday. Thank you, Carson. Oh, dang. Happy 3rd birthday to the Comic Book Report. Yeah, I can't believe it. Funny enough, my aunt, she's so incredible. She sent me a text this morning with a picture of a hat and a mug from Comic Book Report. She bought my merch off the channel, which was super kind of her, so thank you, Aunt Cherie. But she wished me a happy channel birthday, and I didn't even realize it was my channel birthday. I checked the channel, I was like, oh my gosh, it has been 3 years, so woo! Thought it would be a fun occasion, too, to do a little bit of a live stream. After about 400 Omnis, I'm about to call it quits, I think, but off and on since Omnis first started coming out, I just find myself reading way more digital. Well, wow, that's an incredible collection. But honestly, yeah, digital is so accessible as well. You can find some really amazing ways to read, and especially those paid services with Marvel and DC, you can just read a huge library. But I am a fan for these omnibuses, love the oversized format. But also with space and financials, sometimes digital makes sense. Honestly, I'm sick and tired of so many stories just being out about being fit into 6 issues. Yeah, I hear what you mean. I think that there is a lot of publishers that maybe force these stories into 4 to 6 issues, to get into a collection, rather than letting the story dictate the length. And I do think that that is prohibitive at a certain point. But, I think some creators also manage to maneuver around that in really creative and good ways. But I hear what you mean. I have to say Invincible is my favorite. Oh, absolutely. It's amazing. You have the original soft compendium upgrading to the library editions. Oh, I forgot about the library editions. Yeah, that's another oversized hardcover format that's even bigger. Murder Falcon. Yeah, I've heard good things. Dana Warren Johnson is someone I've really wanted to check out. I've heard almost nothing but unanimous praise for that writer. And I'd love to, I think writer. Yeah. Anyway, want to read, check out more of his stuff. Haven't yet. If you have a chance, check out Brubaker's Where the Body Was. Great mystery. Thank you, Carson. Appreciate that. Walking Dead will always hold that special place in my heart. First indie book I ever picked up when I was younger. Yeah, honestly, Walking Dead's amazing. That show I was a huge fan of as well. Good stuff. Are you excited for the upcoming Wolverine by Jonathan Hickman and Greg Capullo? I can't wait. Love Greg Capullo from Batman New 52. Love Wolverine in general. You can actually see my Wolverine omnibuses up there. Whoop, 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 whoop. When I saw Greg Capullo announce that, I think on Twitter or X or whatever, absolutely elated. 2 of my favorite creators doing one of my favorite characters. Cannot wait. Heck yeah, I'm all excited for that Hickman Wolverine story. Yeah, you and me both. Cannot wait to check that out. Okay, well, I think that that's going to about do it today. Any last minute comments? Otherwise, thanks everyone for stopping by, and hope everyone has a great day. Thanks so much.